Good afternoon and welcome into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here on Facebook Live. We'll be joining the Sports Radio 98.7 audience here momentarily as we have lots of ground to cover today. Lots going on, obviously, in the sports world. Lots coming up this weekend. Lots of Penn State football news, and we will delve into all of it over the course of the next couple of hours as we come to you live from Quaker Steak and Lube in State College. Little nicer day than it was on Tuesday, a little warmer and not quite the craziness with the weather from one moment to the next as we welcome in the Sports Radio 98.7 audience here on the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Again, Quaker Steak and Lube in State College. Great place to come on down, enjoy some great wings or other great food options. The quesadillas, a big hit at our house if you're looking for alternatives to the wings, although man, you have something that works, you stick with it, and boy, do the wings here work. Also great beverages, and of course, lots of TVs to watch all of your favorite sports action on. Lots of things we'll get into today. Chris Buchanani will be joining me shortly. The Dear Booch again filling in for the Goon, who is on the road and on assignment today. Goon will be back on Tuesday. Also want to give you just a little heads up on our programming at some point in the near future, and we don't have it pinned down just yet as we start here today, but it could be as early as Tuesday's show next week. But at some point in the near future, we're going to be moving some things around with our lineup with the radio station, and part of it will entail moving this show back an hour, or I guess up an hour would be more accurate. So it'll be from 2 to 4 instead of 3 to 5 here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And again, we'll try to give you as much notice as we can, but that could happen as early as Tuesday of next week. It will happen sometime in the coming weeks here for sure, where this show will again air live from 2 to 4 here on Tuesdays and Thursdays from Quaker Steak and Lube. And we'll have more local voices in our radio lineup here coming again in the very near future. And we'll give you details on that as they become available. Also, a quick note on the radio programming front. Tomorrow, we will be at the Wise Market on Rolling Ridge Drive in State College, just off of Atherton Street, from noon to 6. And we will be hopefully getting lots of food for the local food bank of State College. And so we'll be collecting that food from noon to 6 tomorrow. We'll have a remote broadcast from that location, Wise Market, at Rolling Ridge, just off of South Atherton Street there, tomorrow from 12 to 6. And we'll do another one of those a week from tomorrow, Friday, December 8th. We will be at the Wise Markets off of Westerly Parkway, and that'll be our final food collection event for the Food Bank of State College. And again, it'll be both tomorrow and a week from tomorrow that we'll be doing that from noon to 6. Tomorrow, Wise Market, Rolling Ridge, and December 8th, Wise Market, Westerly Parkway. If you are so inclined to help us out, the need is going up here in Center County, and actually going up pretty substantially. While we're at it, a quick plug for the Toys for Tots program. They are also collecting new unwrapped toys. If you have them, we'd love for you to drop those off at any of the 300 boxes that they have set up throughout the State College area. A lot of stores, I know, I'm not trying to give particular plugs, but I know Walmart, a lot of the grocery stores have those set up. New unused, again, are the key components. There is a particular need for the older kids this year, older being kind of in that 12 to high school range, 12 years old to high school. students, providing opportunities for them to get something nice on Christmas Day. And if you're looking to volunteer, you want to help out, I continue to call it helping out wrapping, even though wrapping is no longer actually part of it. It's sorting and getting the items together for distribution, but the wrapping now is done by the families. They during the pandemic, one of the things that the Toys for Tots folks learned was that the parents really enjoy the wrapping part of the Christmas activities, and so they have made that change, and they'll provide the toys to the family, and then the family gets to go ahead and wrap them. They'll be provided if they need it with the wrapping paper. But if you're interested in helping sort and go through the collections and put together nice packages of toys for various age groups, various genders, then there is that opportunity. You can go to the website locally. It's lamont-pa.toysfortots.org. lamont-pa.toysfortots.org if you're interested in helping to volunteer. And I know they have openings next weekend, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. And then I think the following weekend are the 2 weekends where they'll be finishing up that part of the program. But you still have plenty of time to get, again, those new unwrapped toys in to the Toys for Tots campaign. All right, lots to get to today. We have, we'll certainly talk some Steelers and Eagles. I think, I have been hoping since I was a young kid that at some point we will have a Keystone State Super Bowl. I don't think it's likely this year. I think it is likely the Eagles are there. I think it's unlikely the Steelers are there, but I would say it's a possibility. It's within the realm of possibility that, yes, we could finally have an all Pennsylvania Super Bowl, which I have to say in this town would be fantastic. When I was matriculating through dear old state, we had a couple of years where the Flyers and the Penguins met in the NHL playoffs, and it was amazing and fun to be in the bar scene in downtown State College for those games. You can amp that up by I don't even know what degree for a Super Bowl meeting between the Steelers and the Eagles. One of these years, I hope it happens.
Out of 2 house parties in January of 2004 for fist fighting in the night that, or the weekend preceding the AFC and NFC championship games.
No kidding.
That had the Eagles and the Steelers. Now,
wow.
To be fair, I did not initiate. I was merely a participant.
Let the record clearly show.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, definitely, Ironhead. You've been in those situations where you're with a buddy, and all of a sudden it goes south, and you're like, "Well, now I'm in it." I mean, this is just it. This is guilt by association, and now I'm in.
Yeah, there was one instance where I may or may not have been the instigator, even where it's like, all right, I just wanted, and it was needling, and then you kind of felt it going too far, and it's like, yeah, I just can't let it go at this point. And it's like, yep, okay, there it is. And everybody had to clear out in pretty short order. So
if anyone
been there, done that. It's been many years, by the way, since that happened.
And they're like, who's this guy? And where's Goon? Goon's sick this week. Nothing serious, but thankfully he is taking care for our health, frankly, not coming in here and potentially infecting us with whatever flu-like symptoms he is suffering from. So we hope the Goon household is recovering. It's Chris Bucanani. I'm just filling in.
And let the record show I'm playing through injury. I'm on I was on the questionable list. Well, I'm always on the questionable list. But I had I've never had an ingrown toenail, so I wasn't sure if that's what I had, but I'm like, I'm guessing that's what this is. Well, that is what it is.
That sounds terrible.
It was very painful. And I had lunch with a good friend earlier today, and it's one of those things. It's just in the last month, Okay, I have a friend who has a family member who has Lou Gehrig's disease and is starting to get in the later stages of that. I have a dear friend from college whose youngest son, who's young, is has bone cancer and is going through chemotherapy. It's just been one thing after another. Just yesterday, or 2 days ago now, a couple of good friends had medical episodes. One fell down the stairs and there was some brain hemorrhaging. It looks like he's going to be okay. Another had to be taken to Geisinger. So there's all this stuff going on. And I'm like, and also, I had an ingrown toenail and it hurt. It's like, okay, perspective.
Sure.
And so I do have
perspective.
perspective.
Your toe feel any better though?
But
those
man,
toe injuries are brutal.
Oh, I'm telling you. And so the funny part, I told the story on the morning show today, but it is just funny, those circumstances you get into. So I'm at the foot doctor. Amazingly had an opening yesterday afternoon. Initially, it's like, it's going to be a couple of weeks till we can get you in. I'm like, oh, this thing is so sore, but do what you got to do. And then she's like, oh wait, no, there is an opening at 4:15 this afternoon. I'm like, take it. I'm in. So I got it taken care of in very short order, and a little sore today, but we're going to be fine. So I go in there yesterday, though, and I have been very, very fortunate with my health over the years. I've had one operation in my entire life. I've never had a broken bone. I've never had stitches. Like, it's ridiculous.
Wow, never had stitches.
Never had a broken bone. I had a hernia surgery, is the only surgery I had, and that was in my 30s.
Growing up too, so
yeah,
I mean, you think somewhere along the line there
yes, and I fear at some point, like, this is all just gonna like there's gonna be a year where it's like, yeah, take that. And so I keep I have the garlic out. Everything I can do to ward off.
Any better, Cleveland Browns fans feel that way about winning seasons.
I hear
you.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I'm in there yesterday, and the doctor's like, all right, relax your foot. I need to numb your toe, and I need you to relax. And I'm like, all right. I relax. He's like, no, I need you to relax your foot. I'm like, well, I think my foot's pretty relaxed. He's like, no, like this tendon, and he's pulling on. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like, I feel like I'm relaxed. He's like, let it drop. So I tried to do that, and I guess I did. He's like, okay, that's exactly. Thank you. I'm like, okay, I didn't know how to
make
that
foot.
Yeah, make that happen. And then it's like, now you're gonna feel a sharp poke. You need to keep perfectly still. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, whatever you do. And it wasn't as bad. I was anticipating it was an attention getter, but it was not what I was ready for. And so I held still, and we got through it all, and on the road to recovery and all of that. So all is well. And again, just glad to have a not nearly as sore toe around. Oh yeah, the Deer Horse can't wait for the Pirates Phillies National League Championship Series. Yeah, me either. I can hardly wait for that one as well. All right, a bunch of things to get to. Let's start maybe with Manny Diaz. We were talking a little bit on Tuesday. It sounds like they are certainly advancing. The conversation either is occurring, or it sounds like has occurred now, and that if you're watching the flight tracker today, as several Penn State fans are, it looks like Manny Diaz is on his way back, or now has returned from the trip down there. And it's one of those where, selfishly, I think if you're Penn State, you're hoping, Manny Diaz stays and doesn't take this job. The more I've been thinking about it, Booch, and I don't know what your thoughts are, but this makes so much sense for Manny Diaz to take this Duke job.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. We got totally boned by the crazy online fans of Texas A&M.
Yeah, they didn't help.
They forced the board of trustees down there, they've spooked them into not making
going after Stoops.
making the Stoops hire, which I don't know. I think that's crazy, but not that I think Elko's a good hire too. But Stoops was going to be the guy.
But doesn't Stoops? So, and I think this may end up being sneaky good for Texas A&M. Stoops felt like the hire that Texas A&M would make, right? Like it's a big name for sure. I mean, the family name is huge in college football. Somebody that's been around, obviously, top level football, better part of their life and all of it. And a splash. I mean, and I think it's fascinating to me that the A&M fans reacted the way they did.
I thought so too. And why, after you turned your nose up at Mark Stoops, why Mike Elko is somehow like that much? I mean, to me, in my mind, they're almost like the same guy because they both
agreed
at basketball schools.
Yes, although I think Elko. Like and I guess maybe this is what A&M fans are thinking. Like it feels like there's a little more substance there with Elko to me. And again, this is the outside looking in. Yeah. I know very little about either of them. The thing with Stoops is it feels like his pedigree is for that type of opportunity. I don't know that that is the case with Elko, but I think Elko is a really good football coach. That being said, it's a different animal, and that's why I think this is a good fit for Manny Diaz at Duke on several different levels. And I've been thinking about it a good bit more since Tuesday. We both thought it was a good idea initially for him to at least seriously consider it. But in a lot of ways, it's to me an almost no-brainer. Right? When we were talking about Manny Diaz can be kind of particular. And listen, we don't know that Duke is going to talk presumably to some other people, and maybe Duke is going to say, listen, we love Manny Diaz, but yep, this is our guy over here. So, we don't know for sure that Diaz is going to be offered. I find it hard to believe that there's going to be somebody more appealing and more credentialed that Duke is going to line up with. And again, from everything we've heard and everything we've seen, I can't imagine anybody being a better interview than Manny Diaz. Right. I mean, the guy knows how to present himself and knows, again, authentically what the right answers are in terms of, hey, this is what I want to do with the program. It is going to be interesting to see how Elko does at Texas A&M. We keep talking about it, and I'll probably always talk about it because there's just so many things that come into play as to whether a situation works. And for a quarterback or for a coach, there are great coaches and great quarterbacks that never get the opportunity to really showcase their abilities to the extent that, hey, we recognize them as an all-time great. And I was doing some preliminary, maybe we'll do some time on this next week because the idea hit me about 10 minutes ago, but how quickly perceptions change. So one of the reasons I think this makes sense for Manny Diaz and for Elko to take this job makes a ton of sense. I mean, it is sure. Regardless of how it works or doesn't work, the guaranteed money there is he and his family are set. I mean, that is a no-brainer for Elko to take the job. Yes, it comes with a lot of pressure. Yes, but at the end of the day, again, pressure is relative because
clearly the best thing you can do at Texas A&M is stink.
Well, yeah, Jimbo Fisher is not exactly going to be crying for the next decade over, man, I can't believe I don't get to coach and I keep pulling in this paycheck. So, yes. But here's the thing, from Manny Diaz's perspective. Listen, I think Manny Diaz has it set up extremely well, and I think Penn State's defense will be rock solid moving forward as long as Manny Diaz is here. And I think right now for the next couple of years, regardless of who the defensive coordinator is. That being said, and I feel very confident in that, it is not a guarantee, right? And Manny Diaz is a hot name right now for sure. Again, do I think he will be for the next couple of years? Absolutely. But could there be some injuries next year? Could some sort of division erupt in the Penn State locker room and this thing gets away? I mean, we're seeing scandals left and right. I'm not saying Manny Diaz or James Franklin are doing anything. I'm just telling you, you don't know what is going to happen down the road. Something that is beyond Manny Diaz's control completely could occur. I'm not predicting it. I'm not expecting it. I don't have any inside information. None of that. Don't read anything into this. What I'm telling you is Manny Diaz knows right now that there are people that want to talk to him about being a head coach. While I think he and everybody at Penn State feels very confident that would be the case, maybe even more so after next year and a couple of years down the road, it is not a certainty. What is certain is right now, Duke is interested enough, at least, that they're going to talk to him. And I suspect there are other schools that are in the same boat. So that's number
Matt
one.
Campbell, the Iowa State coach, I mean, the hottest name on the market for about 2 years, and you heard his name in every conversation around bigger gigs opening up. Now you don't hear it at all. I mean, that's it. The market's fickle. So, yeah, I agree. If you're looking to move, which he's been very upfront about wanting to get back into being a head coach, you got to consider how long is my stock going to stay high.
Yeah. And again, I think it would stay high, and I suspect he feels confident that it would. But again, there's just no guarantees. And if you want to be a head coach and you're looking for, again, the right opportunity, again, I don't think he's I know he's not in a position where it's like, hey, I got to take an opportunity if it comes up. I think he can be selective, but I think being selective, this one makes sense. So one is just, again, the timing is, hey, you are a hot commodity right now. You've got some leverage, and this is, again, a good opportunity because a couple of things here. One is it is good money. Duke is going to pay well. It's in the ACC, which he obviously is very familiar with, having coached at Miami. Also being in the ACC, the road to titles, conference titles, is not as steep. Not saying it's easy. Again, don't misunderstand. But easier to win the ACC, Big Ten, or SEC. 100% of those surveyed say the ACC would be the easier of those three. And throw the Big 12 in there now as well, with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, certainly. So that makes sense. The other thing is, and we got into a conversation, does Manny Diaz want to go win national titles? If so, Duke probably is not the spot. Like, it is really hard to envision Duke, no matter how well Manny Diaz does down there. It is almost impossible to imagine Duke winning a national title in football. But I think Manny Diaz can establish enough success that if he wants to make the move, and again, I don't know that Manny Diaz is driven. I don't know that he's not, but I don't know that, like, his driving force is, hey, at some point I have to win the national title as a head coach. That's what drives me. But if it is, I think, again, this move still makes sense, because if you're a head coach at Duke, you don't have to be winning ACC titles. Again, do I think he could? Yeah, I think it's possible, at least win a title. But you don't need to do that to be perceived as successful and to be perceived as, hey, you know what? We at, again, name your school, Oklahoma, UCLA, Florida State, whatever. It's like, man, well, that guy keeps winning consistently 9-10 games at Duke. We want to talk to him. And then I think you have options. Again, if this goes the way he wants, it's like, well, you know what? I love the security. Got a good thing going here at Duke. I'm good. Or if, yeah, you know what? I really want to take that next step and be elite, then go ahead and take your shot then. It feels like that would be the next opportunity for that. For as hot of a name as Manny Diaz is, one, you don't know that there's going to be an opening at one of those elite schools. in the next year or two. And I don't know, again, as hot of a name as he is, that like if Nick Saban steps down at Alabama, I don't think Alabama's looking at Manny Diaz as the next guy. They need something else on the resume.
We love the guy here because of what he's done with the defense.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a lot of, or ever was, a lot of doubt around Manny Diaz as to whether or not he could be an excellent defensive coordinator. There are legitimate questions based on his track record about whether or not he's a guy who can sit in the big chair. So I do think that if he is somebody who is serious about getting to a level where he's leading a championship contending program, it's got to be a two-stepper for him.
I agree. And this seems like such a smart first step to that.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think any title-capable program is going to hire him right now.
Correct.
And
right from
Penn
State.
If there's any hope for Penn State fans in retaining the guy, if I'm Duke, depending on what my institutional priorities are, maybe someone who I kind of understand is coming here as a pit stop is not really what I'm looking for. It's going to be really interesting, Ironhead, to see what happens at some of these traditional basketball schools with football driving so much of the money. Like, I am mildly shocked that the marriage between Indiana and Signetti from JMU was able to be consummated.
Yeah.
And I guess from Indiana's perspective, I mean, if they're willing to pay, I guess, whatever they negotiated the buyout down to $15 million to have Tom Allen not coach their team.
Yeah.
And if you're Signetti and you're looking at all the options, like that, to me feels like kind of a dead end job. But so much of college football is about perception and narrative. If you can go there and you can win 6 or 7 games, some dumb rich person at a power program is going to look at that and say, well, that projects to 10 or 11 wins with the resources we have here. And so, you know, if you're Manny, you're looking at that. And like you said, you don't have to win an ACC title. You win 8 games at Duke. And
do it a couple of times.
And got Mike Elko millions of dollars, right?
Yep.
So I'm sure he's thinking about it that way. Noble made a good point to me. One of the other names that was in the mix is Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator at Ohio State, who previously was at Duke. I think he was on Cutcliffe's staff and was a defensive coordinator there too, I believe. I think he went Duke, Oklahoma State, Ohio State, I think.
Yeah, he definitely went. Yeah, I don't know if I think that is right. He definitely went Oklahoma State to Ohio State, but
so
was at Duke.
So ties.
Yeah,
and he's an older guy. I don't know that he is as transparently taking that job to use it as a stepping stone to a Power 5 job. And if you're Duke, and I'll let slip here that I got through one degree of separation some thoughts of a former Duke head football coach, that there was persistent frustration with a couple of things there. Number one, just the lack of institutional support.
Yeah.
But number two, just because of the kind of university Duke is, they don't have a robust local alumni base. Because if you're getting a degree from Duke University, you're using it in a major metro area, not in the Raleigh-Durham area. So it's one thing to fill, I'm blanking on that, Cameron Indoor. It's another thing to fill a football stadium.
Right.
And so it's not just the lack of interest on behalf of the university, it's a lack of fan support, and those things aren't going to change too much. If you're Duke and you're looking at it and you're saying, hey, we're really not interested in, paying table stakes for the modern college football game, maybe you're looking for somebody who you're going to hire and you can feel confident you're going to keep the guy 5, 6, 7+ years.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to.
That's probably, as the young kids, by the way, say, cope on my part, because if I'm Duke, I'm looking at those 3 choices and I'm taking Manny Diaz.
The energy level that he would bring into the program, right, is I think virtually unmatchable.
They got good defensive personnel there for him to work with.
Yes.
He knows the ACC. Yeah, there are a bunch of reasons why it's a very logical fit.
Yeah, but
sorry, folks.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what. Hopefully, it doesn't pan out, because I do think Diaz is such a tremendous asset. I really do. And
Manny,
listen,
we love you so much. We are actively rooting.
we don't
against
want you
your
to have the success
Yes.
that you want. Yes. Yeah, it's an awful thing. I get it. But listen, I think he genuinely likes it here. There's no question he wants to be a head coach. He's been very open about that,
which I appreciate. I like that he
yes,
doesn't mealy mouth around it when he's asked the question.
but I do think he likes. I think he likes it here. I mean, I think he likes the town, the community, all that, and I think he loves this team, and the frustration of knocking on the door and not getting through, but to be part of that, actually getting through the door. And again, no guarantees, obviously, but it feels like next year again could be, has that potential again for this program. And I do think that has to be appealing to Diaz. But again, there weren't a lot of jobs. When Goon and I were talking the other week about this, and this is before obviously anything had developed at Duke, it's like, yeah, there's probably only a handful really that I think Diaz, and Duke didn't come up, and I wasn't thinking it. But as soon as that came up, I'm like, oh man, boy, does that one make sense.
Right
and
in the sweet spot.
I've been thinking more about it, and I'm like, I was hoping I'd be thinking of all of the reasons that no, that it actually doesn't make sense. And it just, the more and more. Now, again, whether or not Duke offers it is obviously a big part of the equation here. And listen, I don't think it's a gimme grand slam home run, no doubt about it. If Duke offers, he's out of here. If I was betting, I'd be leaning pretty heavily, yes, toward it, because again, he wants to be a head coach. This is a fairly high reward, pretty low risk situation that he'd be taking, right? Like, I mean, the money is going to be there, as it is with all of these jobs, no matter what. Again, Duke is not expecting. It's not like you're going into Texas A&M and boy, you better be winning national titles in the next 5 years, or at least contending. I mean, Duke would be thrilled if once in the next 5 years they get to the playoffs, right? Like they'll be bouncing off the walls there. It's like, holy cow. So, I mean, from that regard, it is a nice situation to be in. I don't know exactly what the offer is, but you're talking about, obviously, for any of these jobs now,
how much
multi-million dollars a year.
Offer right out of the gate. So for context, when Mike Elko signed there initially, his salary was $2.1 million a year.
Is that okay? I wasn't sure.
Negotiated to 3.5. So he was at 3.5 when he left to take the Texas A&M job. Again, you can understand why he jumped at that job offer. He more than doubled his salary.
And where
do you think Duke comes in? With the understanding that I think I am relatively confident that Penn State would be willing to pay him upwards of $2.5 million to come back.
I am too, and this is I got into to this discussion a little bit earlier because I don't think
I'm doing a great job spending Pat Kraft's budget, aren't I?
But listen, I think so. There's a couple of things there.
Pat, I got all kinds of suggestions, by the way, buddy.
But so I do think this will be a test of the commitment that Pat Kraft and Penn State has to putting together a national championship football program.
And I think I actually, as a fan, I have almost no doubt that that's real. I'm like, that's my least of my concerns at this point.
Correct. But from a financial standpoint, right? If let's just say, so I think Duke comes in at least with the initial offer right in that $3 to $3.5 million.
Yeah,
you could argue that they might go a little higher. I don't think. I think it's going to be somewhere in that between $3 and $3.5 million. It would be the offer for I would think like a 5-year deal out of the gate.
Sure.
So let's say Penn State counters on the high end and come $2.5 million to stay as defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Well, then I think it comes down to a couple of things. Is the autonomy of being a head coach. I mean, that is your program, and I do think that is something that is appealing for Diaz.
Yep.
I think then it becomes less about money. And listen, it's $1 million difference potential. Let's say Duke is 3.5. Either way, I think it's going to be about $1 million difference at the end of the day is my best guess. $1 million annually. That is, to any of us, significant money. I mean, hey, do you want another $1 million a year or no? No, I'm good. But when you're talking about that type of money, lifestyle wise, I don't think you're changing greatly the way you might get a little nicer house, I guess.
Sure.
You might make,
you also, I mean, he's a young enough guy that he really does need to think about his career trajectory. So some of it, again, to your point about where does this take me, is do I feel confident? And why I'm still kind of surprised Signetti rolled the dice on Indiana. Like
I am too.
That's a big risk. I look at it and say, is taking this job going to put me in a position where I'm set up to fail and hurt my marketability down the line? I remember when Al Golden took the Temple job, and Joe Paterno was very frank in saying, do you remember this? He said, I told him not to take it because Temple is just not a place where it's easy to win at. And then you got that stigma of losing attached to you. Now, I mean, I guess you could say that Joe turned out to be wrong on that one because Al
worked out,
used it as a springboard. But I still think the advice was sound. The odds of failing at a program like Temple were much higher than pulling off what Al did there. And, I think that's true at Indiana. I don't know that that's as much true at Duke anymore. I feel like from Cutcliffe now to Elko, like, they've been consistently competitive enough that it's not like Duke of the 90s or early 2000s where you see that program in football and it's a total afterthought.
Well, and again, the Duke is one of those few situations that I can think of where you haven't where it is set up for you to have success. Like I don't think. I get that Duke is not all in the way like Alabama or Georgia are all into trying to win national titles in football. But, I mean, Duke is committed to fielding a good football team.
Yeah.
And the expectation there, again, you walk into like Lincoln Riley at USC, it's like, 9 wins. I mean, obviously this year isn't cutting it, but 9 wins, 10 wins isn't cutting. Like you need to be 11-1, like what Penn State fans want James Franklin to be, or there's pressure on you right from the get-go. That's not the case. Again, to me, Duke just feels like such a good fit because I do think that you're set up to have relative success. Again, I don't know that they're set up for you to go in and compete for national titles, but
do you think if you consistently go to a bowl game at Duke, is their fan base ever really going to expect or demand anything more than that? I don't.
So. No. And there are not many situations like that where it's
where you're capable of doing it. Look, and Indiana's fans would love to go.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
But I don't know if they can get to 6 wins on a consistent basis.
No, but where the school is committed enough to give you that opportunity. But if you fall short, it's not like
whatever.
Yeah, and even the national perception, right? If Diaz takes that over and they go 6-6 the next 3 seasons, I don't think anybody looks at it and says, well, boy, Manny Diaz just doesn't know how to coach. It's like, well, yeah, it's Duke. It's hard to establish anything consistent there. Now, that being said, and this is where we do get into the roll of the dice a little bit. And again, we don't know that Duke's going to offer. So let's just, we're playing the hypothetical. Duke offers. If you're Manny Diaz, again, you said you have, I think, no doubt that he would take it. My expectation would be that he does take it. Again, it just makes a ton of sense on pretty much every level. The counter to it, though, would be if Manny Diaz truly thinks this team next year, this team being Penn State, has a chance to win the national title. Like
Yeah.
you're looking at this, and I don't know. I mean, Manny Diaz, in his honest, quiet moments, I don't know if he looks at this roster and says, "Listen, we're really good, but we're not beating Georgia. We're not beating Ohio State next year." I mean, I have no idea. I hope not too. But I mean, he's got a pretty good eye.
Sure.
Overall, I can't imagine he's looking at his defense and saying, "Yeah, we're just not good enough to go out and compete or win a national title." And listen, I think with what Penn State has, well, we can get into that later. I think Penn State is set up to, much like I thought going into this year, but I really do. I think they're set up to at least be in the mix next year when it comes to contending for a national title.
Somebody said to me on X today, we were discussing this, and they said that they felt it was not a slam dunk with Duke for precisely that reason. And they said, I believe that if he stays one more year, he'll have a legitimate shot at Florida or South Carolina, both of which look like they're probably going to come open next year, because I don't expect Florida to get any better. And I'm shocked that Billy Napier survived this year. And South Carolina, they are in big, big trouble because their quarterback's leaving. They had a rough year. And I just saw today, somebody posted their schedule. Ironhead, they might win like 2 games.
Well, and so this is the other part of the, and this is why
Duke were 2 good examples of programs where maybe he could be.
Okay, but so here's the thing. So, and this is why I do lean heavily toward Diaz taking the Duke job. Okay, those are definitely 2 more prestigious jobs, right? Like the higher profile positions.
Yep.
But both would involve, Duke is not in rebuilding mode, right?
Correct.
Like they are, it's solid. Like it's not national title contending solid, but if he can go in and keep most of the guys that they have expecting to return next year, do a decent job on the recruiting front, work the transfer portal.
Quarterback, there's plenty of those.
Yeah, they're going to be a formidable team in the ACC next year. So 2 things, and I agree. Florida and South Carolina would be 2 jobs that would look like good possibilities, and let's just play it out. And Penn State, everything does come together the way everybody's been hoping, and they go out and they win the national title last year. Manny Diaz is the hottest name out there. Both of those jobs will involve a rebuild, and both of those jobs are obviously in the SEC, where you are contending with Georgia and Alabama right out of the gate, Oklahoma and Texas now moving forward, Texas A&M, and the money involved with all of those schools and the expectations. And then you throw in, the Mississippis, the Arkansas, the LSUs, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, it is a hard path to success there. And the alumni and fan base, it is a, like, 8-4. We're talking about Duke fans be like, all right, man, good job. 8-4, 3 years in a row at Florida or South Carolina, even though much better than what they're doing, that is not going to cut it. That's not what they're going to be hiring you for. Now, the other side of that also is the money involved. Again, we're talking Duke at the high end, right, would be $4 million a year, and I don't think they're going that high out of the gate, but best case scenario, I think $4 million would be the ceiling for the first contract here from Duke. That is below the floor of what Florida or South Carolina are going to be throwing out to try to turn those programs around and compete in the SEC. So,
I think
again, there's a lot of things. I don't know what all goes into it. It's hard to get into somebody's mind, and obviously I'm sure they're weighing all of this. Listen, I want to be successful. I want to work with kids. I want to have the autonomy of being a head coach. But you want support. And listen, the first year will be, or at least the first half of the first year will be a bit of a honeymoon period. It's, oh man, we're excited to have you here. Yes, this is our guy. And then, you go 3-3 for those first 6. It's like, I don't know that this is our guy. And I mean, the pressure gets ramped up really quickly. The other side of that, though, is, again, that is now generational money. I mean, you're looking at, $6 million easily
probably the floor.
For those two jobs a year. Well, even if it doesn't pan out and you lose, they're like after a year, this was the wrong decision. Again, you're walking out of there with 30 million plus. That's versus 15 million. And again, I don't know.
To that point, I think South Carolina especially, when you talk about trying to get inside a guy's head, I think about if you're in the position to pursue one of these jobs, how are you thinking it through? South Carolina, especially with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, like that to me just feels like a dead end job. So if you're looking at it and are you basically saying like, I am here to do the best job possible, and the worst case scenario is I'll probably lose and I'll be able to cash in. Now, if you're in the position Manny was in when he accepted the Temple job and then ended up going to Miami, where you're taking your first gig, just the fact that you can say you were the head coach of an SEC program earlier in your career, that makes sense. It probably makes a little bit less sense if you're taking it as your second or third job, unless you kind of know, like, the odds are this is a stopping point. Like I saw a fascinating interview clip yesterday from Jay Wright, where he talked about how he almost took the Philadelphia 76ers job before he won his first national title at Villanova. Because he's a Philly guy. He grew up rooting for the Sixers, loves the city. Ed Stefanski, his good friend, was president of the team at the time. And Villanova had just gone Sweet 16 and then Elite 8. And he said, man, I've done a great job here. I've moved my way up. I've brought Villanova basketball back, and I can hand it off to somebody and say it's in excellent shape, and I can go be the head coach of the 76ers. But he said, my thought process was this. If you go be a head coach in the NBA, you're taking the job to get fired. Everybody gets fired in the NBA. And he said, so, even coaches who win titles get fired frequently. Well, and so he said, I thought it through and I thought, okay, I'm going to go be the coach of my hometown team. It would be great. Then I'm going to get fired. What would I want to do after that? I'd still be a relatively young coach at the time. And I thought, well, maybe I want to go back to college. I might like to have a job at a place like Villanova. And I thought, well, I'm here already, so why don't I just eliminate the middleman and stay? And so I thought it was really interesting for him to talk through the thought process of understanding I am taking this job with the knowledge, even if I do a great job, I'm probably going to get fired, right? And so if you're looking at it, if you're Manny Diaz and whether you're staying at Penn State for another year, or let's say you're just trying to win 8 games at Duke to put yourself in position to grab one of those jobs when they come open next hiring carousel. If you're looking at a job like South Carolina, now Florida's a totally different deal. You can win a national title at Florida. You can't win a national championship at Florida or at South Carolina. But you can make $6-7 million a year. I mean, maybe that's a Jay Wright situation where you say, hey, I'm taking this job to get fired, but whereas it's going to take me 5 years to make $20 million at Duke or longer, it's going to take me 3 years to do it in South Carolina. Then I'll get fired and get paid another $14 million to not work and go get a defensive coordinator job somewhere else. But it's a harsh business, and I do wonder, are you that pragmatic about it? Like, you can't be so delusional that you go into Columbia, South Carolina, and you think, oh, I'm going to take this team to the national title. Like, give me a break.
Seems very unlikely. Yep. I'll tell you what, we'll take a break here. We'll be back, talk bowl projections a little bit with Penn State, what we'd like to see, what we think we will see on Sunday. And we'll talk a little bit about the conference championship matchups coming up this weekend as well. We are back with more of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here from Quaker Steak and Lube in State College in mere minutes.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
Your hands it, busboy. Your wings suck! I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
The Goon and Ironhead.
We welcome you back to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here on this Thursday afternoon. The Deer Booch filling in for Goon this afternoon. A few other things that we want to get into. One of them is, and I do want to get into the championship games this weekend and what we expect and the bowl scenarios here for Penn State. But and we'll also talk some other Penn State sports. But mentioned earlier just how quickly perceptions can change and just the overall situations that need to come together for teams, coaches, quarterbacks to be successful and then perceived as, oh yeah, man, that guy, he was just a winner. Well, yeah, Joe Montana was just a winner. He also had an unbelievable head coach calling the plays and the best receiver maybe that's ever played the game. Montana was fantastic. Terry Bradshaw, for what the Steelers needed at the time, was the perfect quarterback for that team.
Yep.
But yeah, had a pretty good core of running backs, pretty good receiving core. Defense wasn't too shabby. Head coach was pretty good. All of that stuff matters. And, you know, we were just talking during the break about the Chiefs Patriots flexing out of prime time and how quickly, I mean, Bill Belichick is still going to end up going down as one of, if not the greatest coach in NFL history because of the overall resume. But at the moment, is there anybody that's, man, I really wish, and yes, there are, but there's not as many teams. I mean, 3 years ago, there wasn't an NFL team out there that wouldn't have entertained. I mean, not one. No matter who your coach was, it's like if Bill Belichick called, if his agent called and said, hey, Bill really wants to come here. Now, yes, there are still plenty of organizations that would take him. I mean, it's not like people don't recognize it, but like the Leicester is not quite there the way it was. And at the moment, it's like, man, I mean, the Patriots are obviously a disaster this season. In the college ranks, I mean, Dabo Swinney, I think most people still recognize, yeah, that's a good coach.
Yep.
But, I mean, he was right there with Nick Saban. I mean, when people were talking about him, when they won the titles in 2016 and 2018. I mean, it was Alabama and Clemson, and flip a coin between the two. It was those two that were the premier programs, both of them. Clemson was there with Alabama, equal.
No question.
Well, Dabo Swinney now, again, I don't think anybody's sitting there saying, hey, this guy just doesn't know how to coach. But it's like, do you think of Dabo Swinney now as being Nick Saban, Kirby Smart good? You don't at the moment. And we'll see what happens. I know he's buy Clemson stock now while you can. I don't think Clemson's getting back to the national title game anytime soon. Not saying they can't get there, not saying there's no chance it'll happen. But, excuse me, I think with more SEC teams and more Big Ten teams getting into the playoffs, I think it becomes a much harder road. And I mean, listen, Clemson's got to get out of the ACC first, and that hasn't happened for a couple of years
and
here.
It is pretty concerning when you drove the Maserati off the road in that conference. Like, the recruiting did not tail off appreciably at Clemson. Now, I do know there are some people who think that they've, to their detriment, not been active enough in the transfer portal.
Yes.
But part of the reason why Clemson felt like they were just permanently up in that top tier was not only because they were recruiting at an elite level. They were bringing in I think I saw like a top 5 class, for averaging a top 5 class over multiple recruiting cycles. But they were doing it in the ACC. Like, it ain't exactly murderer's row, guys. When you have some of the best talent in the country, like talent that compares with what they have at Alabama and Georgia, if you can't get through the ACC unblemished, or at least with no more than one loss, I don't know what to tell you. And yeah, that's that is a rough, hard detour they've taken the last couple seasons.
Yeah, and listen, again, a lot of things come together. I think there are a lot of really good coaches out there who, for whatever reason, it just is not panning out with their circumstance. And I think, again, one of the things, it was interesting. I had another show that we recorded earlier today, and we were talking about the Drew Aller and Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton all, hey, yeah, I'm coming back. I love this program. Like, it's not even a thought of hitting the transfer portal. Any of that never has been this season, like the relationships and everything else. And it's not about an assistant coach. It's about the program. It's the head coach and all of this. And that got me to thinking too. I am with everybody who is frustrated by the big game disappointments. And yep, I think part of it has been the coaching. I don't think coaching has been great in those games. That being said, I think what Penn State has, when you look at what Michigan has, and you can despise Michigan, you can despise Jim Harbaugh. I do on both counts, but that group of kids is all in. Like, those guys are in it together. There is no question about the bond. Again, you can like it or dislike it. You can not like why they are bonding, whatever. Nobody anywhere has any doubt that those guys are in this together, right? Like, that team is tight. I think Penn State has the exact same thing here now under James Franklin. And I don't think Franklin gets enough credit for creating that culture of trust.
I agree.
And you get to this stage of your career in college football where people talk. I mean, these kids are talking to each other. And listen, I don't know. There's a multitude of reasons why things can get away from a coach that have nothing to do with the coach himself. And there are things, obviously, that can happen because of the coach himself. But for James Franklin to be this far into his tenure and have what, to me, is pretty clearly an extremely high level of trust in that locker room with the players, that is significant. And I think it comes from say what you want about James Franklin, but I think he has been honest with the players on the recruiting trail, and I think he's been honest in the assessment of, hey, I think it makes sense for you to go to the NFL. Like, we'd love to have you here. We're going to miss you, but my God, it makes sense. And I think he has been very forthright and honest in the discussions he's had with players over the years. And I'm not saying 100% of the time the information he's given them, I think he's giving them the best information he has. Again, sometimes you're ready for the NFL and it doesn't work out, or you come back for another year. And I'm not saying every situation works out the way you think it will, but I think James Franklin, I think the players know that if they're asking him his honest opinion, and it's not just his opinion. I mean, he works his tail off to go out and get honest assessments from people in the industry. It's not that he's just, I think this. They know he's going to network and get people in. And, yep, this is what we honestly think, your future looks like in this situation versus this scenario. And I think it is a big part of why I think Penn State could still eventually get that breakthrough into the elite, because I do think they're recruiting at a high level. They are not recruiting at the level Ohio State has consistently. When you look at the classes and the number of 5-star recruits, they're not.
Right.
But again, it's Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, and on a given year, maybe one or two others, Michigan for a couple of years here, Clemson certainly for a while there, maybe Texas now. But I mean, very few teams are consistently bringing in top 5 to top 10 classes. But Penn State is right there. And they have that culture that I think gives them the opportunity. The two things that I think you need, three things that I think you need to win in college football today. One is a quarterback. You have to have a quarterback who can go make plays for you. It can be different styles, it can be different ways, but you have to have a big time quarterback. That is one.
Yep.
I think two is you obviously have to have athletes. You have to have playmakers across the board, offensive and defensive line. You have to have athletes, but you also have to have culture. There are teams out there that have athletes. Texas A&M has athletes. It's no question. Texas A&M has big time athletes. They don't have the right culture. They're not coming together to form a championship team. I think Penn State has the culture. I think they are right on the cusp of having enough of the playmakers. I actually think they have that now. Right. I think they just got to get over the hump in terms of the X's and O's, in particular game situations against the elite opponents. But I think everything else is there. And I don't think there are many places that have that. And I think it's hard to maintain that. Again, I think Dabo Swinney had it going for a while in Clemson. Maybe we'll see what happens here the next couple of years. I think Clemson will be a fascinating program to watch in the coming years with the expanded playoffs and with the ACC, changing a little bit here as well. I'll be really curious to see whether Clemson can get back, not necessarily to the run that they were in, where they're in the championship game every year over a 3 or 4 year period, but can they get, to the semifinals a couple of times here over the nenext 5 years? I'm very doubtful of that as we sit here right now. And not because I think Dabo Swinney lost the ability to coach, or it's really hard to maintain. And that's why what Georgia has done and what Nick Saban and Alabama have done for the length of time, it is not easy to do, even if you have all of the resources, even if you have the reputation and you are a great coach. It is still not easy because you've got a lot of teams that are in pursuit. And again, once you get a little break in there, in that camaraderie or and listen, in this day and age in particular, Booch, I mean, even in an Alabama which Nick Saban is pretty emphatic when he's recruiting you about it. Yeah, this is what your expectations are. the transfer portal, and again, you get one or two guys that it's like, yeah, you know what, this playing time isn't what I thought it would be or what I think it should be. It is not easy to maintain, not as easy as I think people think it is to maintain the success that some of these, again, elite programs have had.
Yeah, you know who I am thinking of, Ironhead? Penn State, in going from the early to mid 80s to the late 80s to early 90s.
Yeah.
That unbelievable run of success from 80 to 86. And then, the recruiting was there. Penn State still fielded a ton of great teams, very competitive teams. But every year, when they had a great season, they'd get tripped up somewhere. And there'd be some down years like 88 or 93. And even the 91, 92 teams were just a tick below where they had been previously. And, still had great coaching, still had great talent, but it's tough. It's tough to stay on top of the heap in college football.
You're listening to WFXS Pleasant Gap State College, and we're glad to have you along on this Thursday afternoon of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Again, the Deer Booch, Chris Bucanani filling in for Goon here this afternoon. Let's talk championship games this weekend, and then we'll get into the poll projections for Penn State. Again, as I always do, root for chaos, and we never seem to get true chaos. There is certainly scenarios, and we talked about it a little bit on Tuesday, for absolute chaos, and it's like no matter what happens, 2 or 3 teams are going to be screwed. I think at the end of the day, this plays largely out the way the playoff committee would hope, and I think it is entirely possible, and I would even say likely, and the Oregon-Washington line is fascinating to me, because I think Washington is going to win that game, which, again, I'm sorry, Washington fans. All the Washington fans are ready to come through the screen and punch me because of my track record in predicting games. But I really do. I just think Washington has that winning mentality, and they know how to get it done. And it's not that Oregon doesn't, but I think Washington to a different degree.
Well, Mike the mailman and I both feel differently. I was talking with Mike about this last night. He is all over Oregon.
Many football experts, the insiders, are also, listen, Oregon is one of the elite.
Mailman is certainly that. He's an insider.
No doubt about that.
Here's my thinking about that game. I think, and I watched the regular season meeting between them, which was a really entertaining, hard-fought game that came down ultimately to a couple of gambles by Dan Lanning on 4th downs that didn't pan out. I think the biggest one in the game, the one everybody remembers, is the one at the end where Oregon had a chance to punt the ball and pin Washington deep, and instead try to end the game at midfield. It was like a 4th and 5 or something. And they didn't convert, and then Washington ended up coming back and taking the lead. I thought the decision at the end of the first half, where they could have kicked a field goal and got 3 points, where they went for a touchdown and ended up with 0, I thought that was a bigger decision. But since that game, I feel like Oregon has looked like the better, more focused team. And I also feel like the home field advantage may have been one of the deciding factors that just gave Washington that extra boost that they needed. So you put those two on a neutral field and you put the chip on Oregon's shoulder. And I think they're comparable, but if you look at the talent rankings, theoretically, Oregon's got a little bit better, deeper roster than Washington does. I just don't see it going the same way. I'm more on the Ducks camp in this one.
Most people are, and actually, I mean, the betting public is coming in overwhelmingly in the Oregon camp,
which kind of surprises me. I thought I was going to be out on an island a little bit picking Oregon in this one, because I have liked them in this game for a few weeks, but it just seems that as we've gotten closer and closer, more and more momentum has picked up. And of course, the last time you saw the two teams, both playing rivalry games, both playing those two leftover teams that would have loved to stick it to the teams that are leaving.
Yep.
Oregon blew Oregon State, who's a very good team,
Yep.
off the field.
They did.
And Washington, frankly, didn't so much as win that game as Washington State handed it back to them multiple times.
Yep. No doubt about it. I just the two things for me, and I keep trying to get myself over the hump here. I get that Bo Nix is a completely different quarterback now. I can't get over the guy that I watched at Beaver Stadium being a guy that could win a national title for his team. And again, it's not that they will win with him. They will win because of him, largely. I mean, obviously they have other components, but I mean, he is the driving force of their success this season. And again, it is an admitted personal flaw of mine that I'm not able to get past what I saw up here and the clear evolution that he has had since transferring out to Oregon. But
even though I'm picking Oregon, I still think, to your point about the quarterback matchup, I think Penix and Adunze might be the two best players on either team.
Yeah, well, so I think Penix is the better quarterback.
Yeah,
and so because of all of my other thoughts on what wins you games, I think it ultimately largely does come down to quarterback. I also think Washington is going to use this. They will have this us against the world mentality now with, my God, we beat this team and now we're 9.5-point underdogs or whatever it is now. Yeah. It's like this is an outrage. And now I don't know how much I always debate myself on this stuff with, like, I do think teams get galvanized over locker room bulletin board material and all of that. But when you're out there on the game, like as the ball's coming down and you're about to make a catch, is it like, hey, we were 9.5-point underdogs. Now I'm going to make this catch. Like,
right.
I mean, it doesn't, like, I do think you get focused, you get hyped, you want to prove something, the emotions come out. But at the end of the day, like, and I can talk myself in and have often in these situations. And even at the end of the game, like if Washington wins it, they're going to tell you part of the reason was, man, you guys disrespected us. I don't know that it actually was. Like, you went out and caught the ball. Were you not going to make that throw or that catch if you were 1.5-point underdog?
Try otherwise.
I mean, so I don't know. I can talk myself in and out of that, but I do think there will be an emotional edge to the Huskies in this game. I do think, for me, it is by far the most intriguing of the conference championship games. I think for many, the most intriguing will be the Alabama-Georgia game because of the history of those two programs and the way Alabama has come on here. But for me, Washington, Oregon is the most intriguing and most compelling matchup. I think nationally, Alabama, Georgia would be that draw. And I'm not saying that's not a compelling matchup. I just think Georgia is a better team. And I understand many of you think that Oregon's just a better team than Washington. That's fine, and we'll find out. We could all end up being wrong on Friday and Saturday. Pac-12 championship game, of course, is Friday night. But listen, I think Alabama's going to be competitive. I don't think it's Georgia's going to rout them. I just think Georgia's a better football team. And again, it comes back to quarterback play. And I also think just at the line of scrimmage this year, Georgia is better up front than Alabama. I don't think it's miles and miles apart that the two programs are, that these particular teams are. But I think Georgia ends up winning that game, and I don't think it comes down to the last play. I don't think it's again a blowout, but I think Georgia ends up winning that thing in the 10 to 14 point range.
It's really interesting. I don't know that I would pick Alabama to win. Now, my disclosed bias in this is that I got, just kind of by the circumstances of the way the season went, got to watch Alabama way more than I did Georgia. I've only sat down and watched Georgia play a couple of times this year, so I've just seen highlights and followed how they're doing. So it just, to me, feels like exactly the sort of situation where you start to get a little too comfortable from Georgia's perspective.
Yeah.
Where, the Nick Saban factor is the guy is considered the greatest for a reason. And the thing with Alabama is that they have played so much better through the second half of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked like hot garbage against USF.
Yep.
And I thought through the first couple of weeks, I thought, man, like this O-line is not what I am used to seeing at Alabama. This quarterback situation is not so great.
Yep.
Jalen Milroe looks like a different player.
No question.
And just the whole team is just playing with so much more discipline. They're executing so much more crisply. And to be able to win in this type of situation where everybody, all the, the public sentiment, all the media commentary, everything is just handing it over to Georgia. That to me seems like it's got Nick Saban special written all over it.
I will say I am rooting for Alabama just because of the ensuing chaos that it will cause. I am definitely rooting for Alabama. And how often do you get to say you're rooting for Alabama because you want to see the underdog prevail? like that has not happened often in the last decade. It's like, well, yeah, of course I'm rooting for Alabama. I root for the underdog in these situations. That does not happen very often.
Don't tug on Superman's cape. Is my feeling.
Yeah, again, we'll see. I'm usually wrong on all this. So if you're in the betting public, go lay big money on Oregon to cover and Bama to win outright. But I do. I like Georgia and Washington in those games.
Hey, I got breaking news.
Yeah.
I would just send thanks to Rich Akers, one of our loyal obligatory listeners, just hit me up on X, the Everything app. On3 Sports is now announcing that indeed Kansas offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki, sorry if I screwed up your name, Coach Kotelnicki, will be the next offensive coordinator at Penn State. So that is just posted 3 minutes ago on the official @On3 Sports account. Not surprising to me, given the momentum around him over the last 24 hours.
And
it's official now.
And it feels just like Mike Yursich did and Kirk Ciarrocca did. That feels like a great hire, right? Like it
does.
It
does.
Checks the boxes that I think most are looking for. Like genuinely, I'm excited about it. There's just now part of me, it's like, okay, how many times can I get excited and then be disappointed with what I'm seeing on the field? But this feels again like a really good hire and
great track record. Has won everywhere he went.
And I think
with the results everywhere he went.
And I think when you look and it feels like he's walking into a great situation. It feels like Penn State figured some things out here at the end of the season, and certainly in that Michigan State game. Who knew that Bro Pabrola in goal line situations might be a wonderful alternative at the quarterback spot? Who knew that getting the running game going and consistently going to that could help open things up? One of the I think, going back to the discussion we had on players and the honesty with James Franklin, there's a lot of guys that obviously are going to have conversations about whether or not to move on and make themselves eligible in the NFL draft or come back. One of the guys that will have the option to go, and I'm certainly, my heart is hoping he doesn't go, but I genuinely don't think it makes sense for him to go, is Tyler Warren. I think that is a guy, because of, listen, he has a ton of ability and is great at both blocking and pass catching.
Yep.
Two things. I think this is a really good year for tight ends coming out in college football.
That's a good point.
And secondly, his numbers, while good this year, like his ability is to be like a national trend-setting tight end. And I think he'll have that opportunity if he comes back next year. I don't know where he projects it in the draft this year. I'm guessing maybe a high-end third round, but I'm guessing probably more in the 4 to 6 range. I haven't really seen it. Maybe I'm way off here. I think
just guessing, I would say, depending on how he tests, and he's got the potential to put up big combine numbers,
huge combine numbers.
I think probably the 3rd to 4th round is where I would.
But I think if he comes back, like I think he would be a clear, if he has the season that I think he can have, and I think he will have, with Drew Aller at quarterback and an offensive coordinator who can get this thing going in the right direction and utilize, a guy like Ty Warren to his utmost. But I think that is a guy that could jump a round a full round, not like,
right.
Okay, instead of the top of the 4th, you're going to be at the bottom of the 3rd. Like I'm saying, I think he could be 2nd round, and
if he goes this year, he's the 2nd Penn State tight end drafted, almost certainly.
Right, and next year again, I think I haven't sat down and looked again. I'm not a draft analyst, but I gotta believe he would have a chance to be the top tight end coming out next year. Again, if he has the season that I think he could next year. Again, he has all of the tools, and yeah, he would test well at the combine either year. I just think that the statistics that he could put up next year could be significant in terms of the initial contract he gets in the NFL. He is one of the guys that I think is just going to be a fascinating watch. It certainly would make a ton of sense for him to go out. I suspect James Franklin would tell him it would make a lot of sense. But I also wonder if he won't have the conversation of, hey, I really think like you could be one of the real key components. Not that he wasn't this year, but I mean, like right there with Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton and Drew Aller in terms of what we're relying on next year offensively.
Yeah.
And as that featured guy that I think he would be next year, again, to me, it feels like that's a guy that has a chance to just make another huge leap in terms of where he could go next year. There's a lot of conversations with a lot of these guys that will be needed to have. But if he comes back and, between the offensive coordinator, quarterback with a year under his belt, and again, it feels like this offense just figured some things out. I get they're losing some components to it next year, and I also get it was Michigan State you did that against, but it really did feel, and maybe we'll get a better idea in the bowl game. Okay, did they really turn a corner, or was it just Michigan State and it didn't matter what you did and who you put out? It feels like they really did get a rhythm and a much better feel for how to exploit the strengths that they have against opposing defenses. And, it's one of the reasons I think next year, again, has the potential to be that breakthrough season that Penn State fans have been thinking is coming for 5 or 6 years now anyway. We'll take a break here. We are back with more of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here on a Thursday afternoon. Quaker Steak and Lube, the place to be on your sports weekend. If you're looking for a place with great food, check. Great beverages, check. I mean, we're here, so great company, check. You get also the opportunity to watch all of the sports action, whether you're a hockey fan, an NBA fan, college football galore this weekend. Other college sports, you can check it all out. And, of course, the NFL, and we're going to talk some NFL when we come back. But come on down, check it all out here at Quaker Steak and Lube. Our thanks also to Sioka Motors and to Lion Country Kia. We are back with more of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show in mirror.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
You hands it, busboy. Your wings suck! I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
The Goon and Ironhead.
In here on a Thursday afternoon, Jeff Byers, Chris Buchanani with you here today as we get ready for championship weekend in the conference championships for college football. You know, Michigan certainly a heavy favorite over Iowa, and I expect that to go that way. Florida State Louisville is certainly an intriguing game. And
easily the best chance for an upset, right?
I would think. Well, I mean,
yeah,
I think Washington.
I mean, consider either team in the Pac-12 game. It's tough for me to call that an upset when they're separated by 2 spots in the playoffs.
I agree with you, but yeah. So I think, yes, Florida State is. And one of the things that comes into play when we talk about, again, how things need to come together for teams, coaches, players, right? Part of it is the schedule. And like they opened up the season with a signature victory that looks like a good win for sure, but that wasn't an Ohio State or a Michigan team this season. Great quarterback and very good team. I mean, I'm not taking away, but since then, not exactly another signature victory on there. So yeah, you got a great win to open the season.
Got them into the ACC in the first place.
And now you have obviously a backup quarterback. So yeah, that feels like a vulnerable spot. Again, at the end of the day, while I'm rooting for all of the chaos we can get, I think we end up with 4 undefeated teams going into the college football playoffs. From Penn State's perspective, and again, if you're just joining us and you missed it, Penn State is expected, or is it being reported that they have, or they're just expected to hire?
It is not that I have seen official from Penn State yet, but multiple national guys are
saying that Penn State is set to hire Kansas associate head coach Andy Kotelnicki.
I'm saying Kotelnicki until somebody tells me wrong.
Yeah, okay. To replace Mike Yurcich's offensive
I'm sure
coordinator.
Chris Peterson and Greg Kincaid will get that pronunciation guy out for all us media types.
Kotelnicki is one of the hot names out there for sure. When you look at what Kansas did this year and what their offense in particular did, I mean, there is every reason to be excited and optimistic about the hire. Again, for me, like, I'm genuinely excited about it, but I was genuinely excited when Mike Yurcich was hired, and I was
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah.
Bill Connolly, the ESPN analyst, just said basically the exact same thing on X. He said, "Granted, I thought Mike Yurcich was a great hire, but this is a great hire." Sometimes you can make the quote-unquote right decision, and it still doesn't work out.
Nebraska and Scott Frost being my forever primary example
100%.
now.
Yes.
I mean, how could that possibly go wrong? Well, it did.
Given the situation at the time, it was if you are as Penn State, you're saying we're going to put a marker down and say that we are not going to let salary be an obstacle to putting together the best coaching staff that puts us in a position to chase conference and national championships. Mike Yurcich was that hire at that time. And this is right in that same mix. This is Penn State saying that we are not going to hesitate to take big swings when the opportunity presents itself. It going to be interesting. Like, again, cross your fingers, man. Duke, Jim Knowles, I hear, is a hell of a guy. I think he's a Blue Devil at heart. I think he would be a loyal, great head coach. I think Duke, if anybody from the Duke administration is watching the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show, or happen to be in Happy Valley listening on 98.7 The Fox, Jim Knowles is your guy.
No doubt. That's just a home run to hire.
We've been saying that all season. Those two are a match made in heaven.
That's just destiny is what that is.
But I do wonder now that you've got this hire under your belt, if James Franklin has to replace Manny Diaz, I wonder if just in the name of stability, because again, this was important. We recorded the obligatory podcast last night, and I said, you listening to this, you might know the answer to the question of the offensive coordinator. We don't, but I am guessing we're going to get it before November is over, because the transfer portal opens on December 4th, and we got to have an answer for these guys we're chasing. I do wonder whether he just looks at Anthony Poindexter, who has 3 years under his belt as a defensive coordinator when he was at UConn, and says, you know what? We are just going to roll with what we've got in-house. I mean, somebody made the point to me earlier today that you could conceivably then just bump Dan Connor up from analyst to linebackers coach, and you're done.
Yeah.
So
that's
again, I would love to have stability and have Kotelnicki and Manny Diaz as our two coordinators going into next season.
How about it?
But if Manny does pop and take the Duke job, I would not be surprised to see an in-house hire.
It would make sense in a lot of different ways with, again, especially when you look at what Penn State has returning, and obviously the comfort level that I think the kids in that locker room right now have with the coaching staff on that side of the ball in particular.
I'm not necessarily saying that's what I think should happen. If you ask me my opinion, I still think the best option for Penn State is to roll the dice a little bit, but it's a risk that I think would pay off big time, and throw a ton of money at Elijah Robinson at Texas A&M and try to pry him loose.
Well,
that would be my number one choice, but I would not be disappointed at all, not at all, if the decision is to roll with Poindexter, who I know is very well liked and respected by the team.
Yeah.
By all accounts, is a great coach, has coordinator experience, and appears to have been a hair's breadth away from getting the head coaching job at his alma mater of Virginia a year or two ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a guy who absolutely has head coach potential in the future.
No doubt.
He's a college Hall of Famer. He played in the NFL. He has a Super Bowl ring. I mean, everything you want if you've got that guy in the building. Sometimes I do think the smart move is to just say, look, we've already got our guy, and we're just going to, in the name of moving this forward and having stability and still making a great hire like they did with Deion Barnes last year when John Scott left for the NFL, you just go with the guy you got.
Yeah. And I think again, when it's cooking the way that side of the ball is right now, there is something to be said for let's not tip the apple cart any more than it needs to be.
Especially because he's been part of the staff this whole time under Manny, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It feels like presumably he's picked some things up watching that and contributed significantly to what you're seeing in terms of the conversations in the room and how to utilize the personnel and all of that. So to me, yeah, that does make a ton of sense. Did want to get into, as we head into the weekend, obviously we'll learn Sunday afternoon Penn State's bowl fate, both the bowl game and bowl opponent. And I was asked earlier today, where do I think Penn State will go, and where do I hope Penn State goes? And then, same thing with the matchups. I will say my answer for where I think they'll go and where I'm hoping they go are the same. And listen, I'm not going to be disappointed if they go to the Fiesta Bowl and back to Arizona. That is a great bowl trip, as Penn State fans will tell you. I've been there a couple of times. It is a fun trip. They do it right at the Fiesta Bowl. That is a great matchup. Penn State fans love it there. Feels like home away from home. Yep, the whole bit. Perfectly fine if that ends up being the destination.
Yep.
But for a couple of reasons, after talking to you and Goon this week, I'm hoping for the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Penn State's never been there. Atlanta's a pretty easy trip to make.
Yep.
And I've never been there, but I have a college buddy that lives in that area and absolutely loves it. And so I'm hoping that's the destination just because, and I'm not sure I'll be able to go, but if I am able to go, that's where I would love to visit, and we'll at least try to make that happen.
Skis on this, but a friend of mine who already preemptively booked his hotel room with the option to cancel, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But did make the great point. I hadn't even thought about this. The College Football Hall of Fame is within a stone's throw of the arena
now. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that would be a really, really cool little addendum to that trip. Right?
And the other thing, and I don't know how many other people think of this stuff, but for me, it would be nice because if I'm able to work it out and we can go, you can still get back here for New Year's Eve. And the New Year's Day holiday.
The schedule is very strange.
And you can stay. Yeah, it's just interesting the way it worked out this year. So a lot of those games are on Saturday. The college football semifinals, which have been on New Year's Eve. This year, New Year's Eve is on a Sunday. The NFL rules, and so everything gets pushed back.
Not tugging on Superman's cape
to New Year's night. Which, by the way, I would much rather have the New Year. I wish it was like that every time. New Year's Eve is not, and I love college football. New Year's Eve isn't for college football. That's not where college football belongs. New Year's Day, all night, fine, good, love it.
Yep.
So this is the way it should be to me. But having those games on the 30th is also not a bad situation for college football fans. And again, you get to depending on travel and stuff. I mean, you should be able to spend Christmas at home or wherever you go for Christmas, and New Year's at home or wherever you go for New Year's, and squeeze the bowl game and a fun trip to Atlanta if that's where it is. I also think that is the most likely destination is the Peach Bowl.
Yes, agreed.
Just reading through everything, the Peach Bowl is clearly when you listen to their I don't know, is that their executive director or whatever? I mean, like, he is all but saying, man, Penn State, like, that is our crown jewel. Like, and listen,
and those bowls talk to each other. That he is saying that publicly, that means there's already an understanding amongst them that if Penn State is there to take, the Peach Bowl gets them.
And listen, Penn State obviously is going to travel well anywhere, but for a new destination, like that, it is, and there's obviously a strong presence. I mean, there's strong presence, Penn State fans everywhere, but the Southeast, like, that is going to be a huge draw from the Penn State side. And I think the most likely matchup is Missouri. That seems to be what more and more places are putting.
I know that's.
I think.
I mean, it's out there. I don't know if it's. I didn't think about it as the most likely, but yeah,
I think it is again. I don't think it's set in stone, but I think that's the most likely matchup. And listen, I think Alabama is kind of the grand slam there, like in terms of opportunity, and Texas is really good. But Missouri, I think creates. I think there's some neat opportunities there. One, it's a team that you don't. I can't think the last time. Was it the 70s that Penn State faced? They faced them when I was a kid. I know that, but I mean, we're going way back.
I'll get you the answer.
So it's been a long time anyway. So it's a new team, which I just think is exciting. I think Missouri is very good. Again, not the cachet, obviously, that Alabama or even Texas now has, but it's an SEC team that, this year was knocking on the door but couldn't break through against, they're not in Georgia, Alabama realm, but they're in that next group, and Penn State not beating Ohio State or Michigan in leading that next group. So I think it's from a matchup standpoint this season and where the two programs are, where the two teams are, this feels like a good, even matchup. Terrific quarterback with Missouri, great storyline for the Tigers kind of having a bit of a breakthrough season this year. I think it's a fun game. And unlike Tulane we were talking about, you do get credit for a win here over Missouri in the SEC. That is, you're not getting the credit that you'd get for beating Alabama, but you're getting that's a big check mark. Yep. Plus,
it's
a higher ranked team.
They're like mirror images. 2022 and 2023. You would get the same credit for beating top 10 Missouri as we got for beating
Utah.
Top 10 Utah.
Yeah.
So, in answer to your question, 1980 actually.
Okay.
They had a regular season. See, you and I were both thinking of the bowl game.
Yeah.
They played Missouri in the Orange Bowl in 1970. They won. They played a regular season road game at Missouri in 1980.
Won.
So Penn State is 3-1 all time against Missouri. Prior to the 70 game, they played looks like a home and home at 59-60, and the road team won both times.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that's obviously been forever.
Shout out to Winsipedia.com, one of the coolest sites on the internet.
There you go. Good job. Thank you. And so I don't know. Do you think there's a more likely matchup? Texas is certainly in play here. And again, part of this depends on how everything plays out.
Yeah.
I think Washington or Oregon would be in play as well. I think more so Oregon if it loses and has the two losses there. I think Washington is less likely as a Peach Bowl opponent. Now, Washington could come and play if Penn State somehow ended up in the and when I say somehow, it's not far-fetched, but if I think it's a more likely matchup with Washington in the Fiesta Bowl if it were to happen. But to me, just reading through it again, I obviously have no inside info. It feels like the most likely scenario, and I don't think it's by a great margin or anything. Again, I don't think it's Penn State, Missouri. We're just waiting for the official announcement. I don't think that's the case at all. But if you're to me, that feels like the most likely of all of the scenarios at the moment. But depends on the results here over the weekend. And obviously, there's still going to be some finagling, I'm sure, here with the bowls. But I do think Penn State ends up in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, I think in my head, I found myself probably thinking that Penn State-Alabama game was going to happen. Which, again, I don't know that I really want. I don't know if I really want that smoke iron.
Yeah,
I get it would be a monumental win if Penn State could beat Alabama. It would also be one of the greatest stories in the history of American sports if I could knock out Mike Tyson, and I don't know that we have the same chance, but it might be in the same ballpark. So maybe I would just rather face a team that composed of and coached by a mortal as opposed to Alabama, but I don't think that matchup's off the table at all.
I don't either.
As a Penn State fan, the one thing you were just tracking this weekend, and again, I don't think it is a big threat at all. But if Iowa and Oklahoma State both win, it knocks Penn State out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, listen,
Well,
if Iowa and Oklahoma State both win, like my advice to you is to repent your sins and start stockpiling non-perishable food.
Well,
Because
I will say
bigger problems.
Although I will say this, while it should knock Penn State out, I'm not actually sure that it definitively does. It should, but
here's the thing, and here's why I know this, because Rich Scarcella just got into a tete-a-tete on X with Kevin over this, and Kevin was wrong and Rich was right. According to the president of the Peach Bowl,
they have to take. Okay,
they've got to take. And I get Kev did end up, he admitted he was wrong, but he ended up finding the policy. They've got to take the conference champions, even though the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl are playoff games.
Yep.
They've got to take Iowa and Oklahoma State, which is to me kind of silly, but
right. But would they? So
and they have to take the highest ranked Group of 5 champion, and Missouri's ranked ahead of Penn State. So
do they have? They have to take the higher ranked team in that situation.
Correct.
Or
they
because
they would take a higher ranked SEC team apparently.
But I don't is.
I mean, I guess there's no rule that said they would have to.
Because I mean I will admit I don't know if all the rules.
Better,
well, even or even a Texas. If Texas lost to Oklahoma State, because I was thinking Texas there, I forgot Missouri. But how would Texas automatically would go?
Well, because they would probably not drop out of the top 11
if they lost to Oklahoma State. Having lost to both Oklahoma, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wasn't thinking about Missouri, but Texas would have. Like, if you're comparing losses, and again, there's more to it than that, but if you're comparing losses, Penn State's losses would be Michigan and Ohio State. And even if Michigan lost to Iowa, you're talking about 2 total losses with those 2 teams.
Wow.
Texas would have losses to, does Oklahoma have 3 losses now, right? Or 2?
2.
And then Oklahoma State. I don't know that, but even Missouri, I don't know if they have to take a higher ranked team, but if the Peach Bowl, I'm telling you, even if Missouri deserves it, if they have the option, listen, are we going to take Missouri and their fans? And Missouri, I'm sure, would travel well. They're not traveling the way Penn State is and filling that stadium and tuning in, getting eyeballs on the TV set the way Penn State is.
Right. Well, again, I don't think it's – listen, if Iowa and Oklahoma State both win – I'm not going to know what bowl we're playing in because I'm already going to be in my underground bunker waiting for the bombs to drop. So,
fair enough. I still think, I'll have to read through. I haven't read through all the rules.
I think there's a better chance of Iowa getting shut out than there is of Iowa winning the game by an appreciable margin.
I would agree wholeheartedly with that.
But Big Ten fans, Iowa's punter, Torrey Taylor, I believe it is 319 punting yards away from the all-time conference record.
Yep.
Now that is an achievable milestone for the Hawkeyes.
Very achievable.
I believe. He could get it in the first half.
Couple of quick Penn State notes, and we're going to take a break, and then we'll wrap things up. Actually, we'll just take a break at the end. A couple Penn State notes, and then we're going to talk some NFL. We'll have Steelers and Eagles talk here as we head into the weekend. Penn State women's volleyball in about 45 minutes from now opens up NCAA tournament play against Yale. Penn State, again, in its 43rd NCAA tournament appearance. There have been 43 NCAA tournaments, and Penn State is the only school in the nation to have earned a bid to all of the NCAA women's volleyball tournaments. With a win tonight, and Penn State is favored. Penn State would face the winner of the match between Kansas and Omaha, which will be later tonight at 6:30 tomorrow night in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Penn State hockey with a couple of big games coming up tomorrow and Saturday against Minnesota at Pagola Ice Arena. Big opportunity for Penn State to make a bit of a move. They need to get one of these home weekends where they sweep. They've been it's been splits and they're treading water. They need a breakthrough weekend here where it's like, nope, we take all of the points, no overtimes, just and this is an opportunity anyway to do that. Penn State basketball. I think a really important game coming up here on Saturday. Noon tip-off at the Jordan Center against always tough Bucknell. A chance for Penn State to reset the table a little bit, to maybe show that they are, in fact, applying the lessons learned, in particular on the defensive end of the floor from the tournament in Kissimmee, Florida. Really big game. I'm not going to sit here and overplay it and say it's the pivotal point of the season, but it feels like it could be that type of a game. You lose this one, it's hard to see how this team gets back into contention.
It's not that winning over Bucknell does a whole lot for you, but if you don't win, coming off 3 straight losses,
that's the thing.
It get a little rickety.
It's hard once that snowball starts rolling downhill. And listen, the 3 games that they lost down there, again, it not good, but good teams, neutral site. If you turn around and you apply lessons, you get a good win over Bucknell, you get a win or 2 early in the Big Ten season. It's like, okay, yep, they went through their growing pains there. You lose this game to Bucknell Saturday, and all of a sudden it feels like, okay. The 4-0 start was just, not this year. Again, nobody's giving up on the Mike Rhodes era or anything, but it's like, okay, maybe this season isn't filled with quite as much potential as we thought.
As we talked about on Tuesday, you threw the roster together from scratch, more or less. And so the question is just like, how good of a team were you able to put on the court in year one, and how quickly are they going to gel and play together?
Penn State Lehigh wrestling on Sunday at 2 at Rec Hall, the Nittany Lions in their dual meet opener. Obviously, Penn State will be favored in every duel this season. There are some really good matchups, though, in this one. I think Lehigh probably goes in thinking it could win 4, maybe even if everything breaks just right, 5 bouts. But I think they go in feeling like they can win 25. 33 is going to be one heck of a match. Aaron Nagao for Penn State, Ryan Crookham for Lehigh. Crookham, if you didn't see, beat Vito Arujau of Cornell at the Journeyman Collegiate. Vito was all everything starting last March when he blazed his way to the NCAA title, parlayed that into a world championship, and he has just been the hot story. If I'm Cornell, I'm not panicking. I think Arujau, again, that same schedule I just talked about, it takes a toll on you. There's been a lot of travel. There's been a lot of training involved. I don't think it's the end of the world for Arujau. I don't think it necessarily portends anything in March. I do think it signals that Ryan Crookham is really good. I don't care what the situation and circumstances are. If you're beating Vito Arujau, you're doing something special, and he did something special. I think that is I think that match alone is worth the price of admission to Rec Hall for Sunday's dual meet. And I think it'll be another good matchup. Bo Bartlett handled Malik Hines at the Journeyman Collegiate, but Hines is a tough style matchup, and I'll be curious. Lehigh does a great job with its coaching and scouting. I'll be curious to see the adjustments that Hines makes, and then kind of the counter adjustments that I suspect Bo Bartlett will make. But again, Bo Bartlett to me has just taken his game to another level. But this will be another good early test here for Bo Bartlett in Sunday's duel. And Levi Haynes has a good matchup. Again, Levi being Levi, you just expect him to win everything. But this should be a good test early in the season for him as well. So best of luck to all of the Penn State teams. I think I hit everything. Lady Lions obviously won pretty big, 97-47 over Radford. I mean, expected to take care of business, but they did last night, and they'll go on the road to face West Virginia on Monday before our show next Tuesday. But off to a nice 7-1 start are the Lady Lions. I think some pressure on Carolyn Krieger this season. It's a program that has not really been making the strides prior to this season that I think many expected. I think, I don't know exactly how much pressure is on her, but they needed to show some significant progress. And we're 8 games in, ways to go, but certainly the early indications are very positive for that program, and there's a chance they could be ranked here in the near future in the AP for the first time in I think over 9 years now for that Penn State women's program. Steelers, big opportunity here. I think a dangerous game because of Kyler Murray. It does worry me, and the Steelers have had this propensity to lose a game that they shouldn't, at least a game that they shouldn't every year. This feels like it could be that type of a spot, but I'm listening to some of Colin Cowherd was all over the car. He's taking the Cardinals and I think it's 5.5. That's way too many. No,
really?
He thinks that the Cardinals are poised to at least keep it close. And one of the reasons he used was he just doesn't buy Kenny Pickett. I'm actually buying. 2 weeks ago, I would have been, even a week ago, I probably would have been with you. I really think, much like I think Penn State figured some things out toward the end of the season and started to really apply the offense that I wish they had been applying all season long against Michigan State. I think the Steelers last week, again, the points weren't there, and Mike Tomlin made the point in the press conference, listen, the yards are great. Yep, we're making strides in the right direction, but 16 points, we're not going to sit here and celebrate 16 points in an NFL game. I think this is the weekend where they take that next step and do convert those points, getting down into the red zone, into scores. And I think what the Steelers are doing offensively is starting to cater more to Kenny Pickett's game. Kenny has a good long ball. I'm really curious to see what the attack is that the Steelers use. They used Pat Freiermuth, and obviously getting him back is a big part of the equation here, I think, for the effectiveness of that Steelers offense. But I am really high on what I think the Steelers are going to be able to do and what they'll be able to show. Again, Murray worries me, but the defense is great. I mean, I think the defense will make plenty of plays, even if they give up some, and I think that's entirely possible against Murray. I actually do think this is kind of the breakout weekend for Kenny Pickett and the Steelers offense, and we'll see what happens. But I'm optimistic and feeling good as a Steelers fan going into the weekend. And your Philadelphia Eagles have San Francisco 49ers in what may be the game of the regular season, at least for this week. It's the game of the regular season. I feel like we have another game of the regular season each week in the NFL, but this really does feel to me, and I know Dallas is sitting there, and there's nothing given. All kinds of things can happen with injuries and everything. I do think this is a preview of the NFC Championship game, and I think these are two of the best 3 or 4 teams in the NFL this year.
Well, and there's a big game of consequence for both of these teams happening tonight between Seattle and Dallas.
Yep.
What happens in that game is going to indirectly affect both participants on Sunday, because San Francisco, who still has to play Seattle again, they're fighting for the division title with the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So likewise, Philly is hoping that Seattle can do them a favor and put a little more distance between the Eagles and the Cowboys. So that's a game that I'll be watching. Yeah, man. I mean, there is a ton of smack talk around this.
It's been amazing.
So first of all, you had so much whining from the 49ers last year after that game. I mean, first of all the moaning and complaining about, NFL, please change the rules so we can have another quit. Nothing was stopping you from keeping an emergency quarterback on the roster. That's the way it worked. You had 52 spots. You had to take a calculated risk if you rolled with 2 quarterbacks. That's just the way. I mean, it was nothing new, right?
I agree.
So there was that. And then just in the offseason, almost never have I heard so many players come out and just openly disrespect a team that took them out behind the woodshed. I mean, again, Philadelphia has earned the right to be able to drop this one, both in terms of their record and because of everything they've accomplished over the last 5 weeks. I mean, that team is a little tired right now. Look, it's not the end of the world. 1994, the Eagles went out to San Francisco and beat the doors off Steve Young and that Deion Sanders team, and it didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
to who won the Super Bowl that year. So it's not like this is the be all end all. But man, I'll tell you what, like the 49ers mouths have written some big old checks. So we're going to get to see whether or not their team and their bodies can cash them in Philly on
it'll
Sunday.
be a fun weekend of football and other sports. Enjoy it. We will be back on Tuesday to talk about it all and break it down and see where we were right and where I was wrong again on so many counts. Folks, have a
Coast
great
into
weekend.
fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Since retiring, I have spent my time searching the countryside for the hottest wings in America. I always seem to end up disappointed. You call these hot? Back off, Luigi.
Mamma mia.
Look hands it, busboy. Your wings suck! I knew I should have stuck with Quaker Steak's triple atomic wings. You think I'm tough enough?
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
Sioka Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart pack to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Sioka Toyota of Williamsport and see the Sioka dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Sioka Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Sioka Toyota, it just feels right.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Haw-Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Haw-Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Haw-Baker.
The Goon and Ironhead.